Maricopa County Assessor Paul Petersen was driving home after a vacation in California when he was pulled over and arrested along I-8 last night.
Little did anyone know, Petersen, who, as Steve mentioned, is the Maricopa County Assessor, was under investigation and had been for quite some time for black market adoptions. Petersen made his first court appearance today alongside his attorney. The first voice you'll hear is the state prosecutor addressing conditions of a release.
Even today, there are birth mothers that the defendant has flown from the Marshall Islands that are here in Arizona waiting and being this whole process of the scam. So if the defendant's out, it's likely this will continue on.
We see other cases, we see violent cases, and don't come near this type of a bond, even a request of that. The request is curious, it is troubling.
Yesterday around this time, agents raided Petersen's home and law office in Mesa, taking evidence from both of those locations. Petersen now facing 32 counts here in Arizona, plus federal charges in Arkansas and Utah for human trafficking. He's accused of bringing women to Arizona from the Republic of Marshall Islands, and after giving birth, those women would then either return to the Marshall Islands, or in some cases, they worked at a chicken farm in Arkansas. Marshall Islands is located more than 5,000 miles from here between Hawaii and Australia. Petersen's ties to the Marshall Islands began with his mission there through the Latter-day Saints, and authorities say his profits were more than $1 million.
Mr. Petersen would charge about $35,000 for you to adopt a child from his agency. He would pay these Marshallese women around $10,000 on some occasions, but then siphon money off the top of that for health care, for housing, transportation, and other things.
The Attorney General believes there may be other victims out there. So if you processed your adoption through Petersen, you can call 602-542-8888 to provide more details for law enforcement.
The ABC 15 investigators have been digging into those 3 indictments, piecing together how the alleged adoption scheme worked and why prosecutors say the human smuggling investigation could reach far beyond Utah, Arkansas, and Arizona.
This case is the purest form of human trafficking.
Federal prosecutors in Arkansas summing up their case against Maricopa County Assessor Paul Petersen, describing the conditions they say some pregnant Marshallese women endured after being recruited to give up their newborns by Petersen's company and his associates.
It's not uncommon for up to 4 of those expecting mothers to be confined in a single room. Some expecting mothers were forced to sleep on the floors.
The feds have charged him with conspiracy to smuggle illegal aliens for financial gain, similar charges out of Utah. Petersen's law firm website shows several photos of families with newborns and testimonials of families who've adopted Marshallese children.
The commercialization of children is illegal, and the commoditization of children is simply evil.
Prosecutors in Utah say many of the birth mothers were recruited on the ground through word of mouth and through women who previously participated in the alleged scheme. ABC 15 has obtained emails between Petersen and potential adoptive parents that illustrate that process. Petersen writes that the birth mother has 1 child with her here in the U.S., another living with his father in the Marshall Islands, and another she adopted out recently, so this isn't her first rodeo. Here in Arizona,
most of the children that were born here were eventually flown to other states.
Charges stem from alleged access fraud, not human smuggling. A spokesperson for the Arizona Attorney General says that's because many of the women came to Arizona consensually. And the investigations aren't over. The Utah Attorney General says it continues to get tips about potential victims and expects the investigation to reach into other states. In the newsroom, Courtney Holmes, ABC 15, Arizona.
Officials say to carry out this so-called human smuggling scheme, Petersen did not act alone. He worked with a network of fixers, including one of his associates, Linwood Jeanette. Well, today, ABC 15 investigator Dave Biskobing's been working to find out more about Petersen's alleged criminal counterparts.
Dozens of pregnant women don't get smuggled in and out of the United States without the help of a team, and that's where these 2 women come in.
Ma'am, can I get your name and date of birth?
Linwood Jeanette.
Linwood Jeanette is from the Marshall Islands. Court records show she has previous arrests for DWI, failing to appear, and theft. The records also show her Mesa address was the same as the one where 8 of the expectant mothers were being housed. And we found she's also facing 2 indictments related to this case.
I have 2 grand jury warrants.
That is correct. You do have another one.
Between the 2, she's accused of defrauding state health insurance, laundering money, forging documents, evading taxes, and more. Officials unwilling to say more right now about her connection to Petersen.
They're associates in this criminal conspiracy. That's all that I can release at this time.
And in Arkansas, prosecutors and investigators also laid out how Maki Takahisha, another Marshallese woman, worked with Petersen to encourage and induce the pregnant women to come to the U.S. She's accused of laundering more than $1 million from Petersen to pay the pregnant women. She's also accused of lying to get them insurance and benefits. Officials in all 3 states say their investigations are ongoing. It's likely many more victims will come forward, and there could be additional charges for others involved. I'm Dave Biskobing, ABC 15, Arizona.
As serious as this appears for Paul Petersen, the one thing he doesn't have to do is resign as Maricopa County Assessor. Petersen is an elected official, so while constituents and officials can urge him to step down, it is Petersen and Petersen alone who decides if he will leave office before the end of his term.
So how does the adoption process really work? We want to give you some more perspective on this. So joining us now is Becky Merriman with Building Arizona Families. Becky, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you a little bit about the process here, but it also seems like in this particular instance, you'd be very vulnerable to somebody trying to commit fraud, because on both sides of the equation here, you have people who may be in desperate situations.
Yes, desperate with birth parents who are in a situation where they are needing assistance for their child, and desperate for families who are so desperate to become parents, and that is their avenue to become parents. So their emotions are running at the highest level.
Yeah. So what do people do then to avoid something like this?
To avoid it, we encourage education. You would want to educate yourself on your process. Check into everything. Don't just take someone's word. Check into the agencies, check into the attorneys. Make sure that you are working with an agency that is licensed and Hague accredited. Attorneys, you can check the state board. You can check the state licensing board for agencies. You can also, for Hague accredited agencies, you can also go to the State Department website and get names, and you can find out, have they had complaints? What are the reviews that have been placed out there for them?
And we want to make sure we get this out there too. Becky, we were talking earlier, I mentioned I'm adopted, you have children through adoption. This has the potential to stoke a lot of fear, you said, in the adoption community, and this does not represent what adoption is.
It does not.
Yeah.
It does not. Unfortunately, bad news makes the headlines, but there are thousands of children that are placed in homes and families who grow through adoption every year with amazing success stories as they grow. And we don't want families to be afraid to go through the adoption process. Just educate yourself. Don't utilize social media for your education.
Yeah.
Don't match in a situation, don't be drawn into a situation without investigating it thoroughly.
Yeah, some great
Becky
advice.
Merriman from Building Arizona Families, thanks so much for the advice tonight.
Thank you.